It's crazy. Literally everything in the National Football League can change in a matter of seconds. I mean, the line between being a perennial championship contender and a franchise plummeting into total absolute rebuild mode, it is terrifyingly thin. Think about it. You spend years constructing a roster. You draft the right guys, you develop them, you meticulously scheme week in and week out. But the harsh reality of this league is that the entire foundation of your franchise basically rests on the shoulders of one single position. And when the foundational anchor at quarterback begins to crack, well, the shockwaves aren't just felt in one city. They ripple across the entire landscape of the sport. Right now, as we speak, we are witnessing one of those massive fault lines opening up, and it is genuinely threatening to swallow several franchises whole. So let's dive into exactly how we got here. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of an NFL general manager for a second. Your entire career, your legacy, the jobs of literally everyone in your building, from the coaching staff to the scouts, they all rest on one player. So what happens when the stability you banked your entire job on simply shatters? You're left staring into a void, right? You're forced to make these rapid-fire panic decisions that will echo for a decade. That is exactly the atmosphere right now. We're looking at a situation that has completely paralyzed one front office and sent several others into an absolute desperate frenzy. Every single decision from here on out is magnified 100 times over.
The exact moment that contract extension talks officially froze down in Tampa Bay, a silent countdown began across the entire league. General managers who thought their rosters were set, guys who thought they could sleep easy at night, are now frantically reworking their emergency contingency plans. Because make no mistake, the entire landscape of the 2026 NFL season has fundamentally shifted. We're looking at a scenario where a massive, league-altering domino is just teetering on the edge. And when it falls, it is going to completely crush the carefully laid plans of multiple organizations.
All right, Section 1, $100 million standoff. We are looking at a high-stakes, intensely personal financial standoff right now between Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office. And look, this isn't just about money anymore. This is about leverage. It's about respect. It is a brutal game of chicken, where blinking could quite literally cost you your legacy in the NFL. The two sides made virtually zero progress in recent months, and Mayfield, he drew a very hard line in the sand. He set a strict training camp deadline for an extension, and Tampa Bay flat out failed to meet it. So that brings us to the sheer staggering weight of this number. Mayfield is currently playing out the final year of a massive 3-year, $100 million deal. That is a gargantuan sum of money, and it hangs over every single decision the Buccaneers make right now. When your starting quarterback enters the final year of a 9-figure deal without an extension, the clock doesn't just tick, it booms. Mayfield has essentially packed up the negotiation table to focus purely on football, which turns his impending free agency into a ticking time bomb for the entire organization. And the immediate pressure on Tampa Bay is immense. For this current campaign, Mayfield commands a suffocating salary cap figure of roughly $40 million. Let that sink in. $40 million allocated to a player who could just walk out the front door the exact second the season ends. Talk about an insanely expensive rental, right? This cap hit forces the Buccaneers into an incredibly tight corner. It completely restricts their ability to maneuver, it kills their ability to sign surrounding talent, and it means they are effectively being held hostage by a massive financial commitment with absolutely zero long-term security to show for it. Now, the Buccaneers do have one ultimate leverage play left in their arsenal, the franchise tag. Tampa Bay has the option to apply a projected $50 million franchise tag next offseason. It's their colossal threat meant to keep a star player in line, basically a financial anchor to secure their guy against his will if they have to. But here is the cinematic twist to all of this. Mayfield remains completely unfazed. Seriously, he has expressed absolutely no concern about that possibility. He is perfectly willing to take that massive gamble, essentially daring Tampa Bay to tie up $50 million in fully guaranteed cash next spring. He's calling their bluff. So, you might be wondering, why the extreme confidence? Well, the answers are right there on the tape from his 2025 campaign. Let's break this down. He threw for a highly respectable 3,693 passing yards. He tossed 26 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions. That is incredibly solid quarterback play. Now, of course, the flip side is that the Buccaneers finished with a highly disappointing 8-9 final record, missing the playoffs for the very first time since 2019. But in Mayfield's eyes, and definitely in the eyes of his agent, those individual numbers prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did his job. He feels like he was the only life raft on a sinking ship, and he believes those numbers dictate a massive payday, regardless of the team's overall organizational struggles. But the absolutely crucial point, the golden ticket here, is this exact metric. 63.2%. That was his completion rate last season. Amidst complete organizational chaos, a totally struggling offensive line, and an eventual losing record, Baker Mayfield maintained a 63.2% completion rate. That is a sign of immense individual consistency. It proves to the rest of the league that even when the environment around him completely degrades, he can still execute an offense with undeniable efficiency. And I promise you, that exact consistency is exactly what has other desperate teams quietly picking up the phone right now. Moving on to Section 2, the Indianapolis Dilemma. Let's pivot the lens over to Indianapolis for a second, a desperate franchise absolutely drowning in quarterback uncertainty. They are sitting in the dark watching this Tampa Bay standoff unfold and realizing that Baker Mayfield might just be the exact life preserver they have been frantically searching for. Over the last calendar year, absolute chaos has consumed this team. I mean, look at this timeline. In 2025, they went into the season with Daniel Jones as the starter, only to watch him suffer a major, devastating injury. They were then forced to turn to Anthony Richardson, who struggled mightily to provide any kind of consistent solution under center. It got so bad, so completely unraveled, that it actually led to the desperate, brief return of veteran Philip Rivers. Yeah, you heard that right. Now flash forward to the summer of 2026. Daniel Jones has hit a huge post-surgery training camp milestone, and technically both he and Richardson are healthy. But huge, terrifyingly looming questions remain about Jones' physical durability and Richardson's long-term viability as a franchise guy. And this, right here, is the ultimate dilemma Indianapolis faces today. If you're calling the shots in Indy, which button are you pressing? The risky unknown or the battle-tested bridge? On one side, you have sticking with the unknown, trusting a fragile Daniel Jones who just came off major surgery, or relying on an erratic Anthony Richardson, whose long-term commitment to the organization is seriously in question. The severe risk here is suffering through another entirely lost season. But on the other side, the Mayfield bridge. Mayfield offers battle-tested stability. He has a proven track record of leading teams through intense adversity. If injuries resurface or production declines for the Colts, Mayfield is the ultimate emergency option. He is a bridge solution that wouldn't require Indianapolis to tear everything down for a complete roster rebuild. Section 3, Mid-Season Trade Contingencies. Now, this brings us to the most volatile rumor currently echoing through the halls of NFL front offices. Because if things go south in September and October, these discussions aren't going to wait for free agency next spring. We could legitimately be looking at a mid-season blockbuster that would utterly shock the system. Could Anthony Richardson actually be moved? Just let the sheer magnitude of this possibility hang in the air for a second. We are talking about trading a highly touted, freakishly athletic prospect for a battle-hardened veteran mercenary in Baker Mayfield. It's a scenario that sounds completely impossible until you look at the sheer desperation of a general manager trying to save his job. If the Colts brass decides they can no longer endure the roller coaster, this unthinkable trade suddenly becomes a very, very real discussion. For a blockbuster of this magnitude to actually happen, 3 specific dominoes must fall perfectly in order. It's like a giant puzzle. Step 1. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers stumble out of the gate and fall out of playoff contention early in the season. Step 2. The Colts simultaneously lose faith in Daniel Jones' health and Anthony Richardson's development. Step 3. The trigger is pulled. Tampa Bay trades Baker Mayfield to Indianapolis in exchange for Anthony Richardson and draft compensation. In one fell swoop, the Colts instantly get a proven veteran to maximize their current talent window, and the Buccaneers completely reset their timeline with a young quarterback and draft picks. It is wild, but it makes an eerie amount of sense. But what if Tampa Bay holds on? What if a mid-season trade fails to materialize because the Buccaneers remain competitive or the asking price is just simply too high for Indy to stomach? Well, that scenario unleashes something perhaps even more chaotic, a massive bidding war in free agency next spring. If Mayfield hits the open market, it will absolutely not just be the Colts making a phone call. Section 4. The league-wide ripple effect. The league-wide ripple effect connecting this single stalled contract to the rest of the NFL is staggering to think about. Because waiting in the shadows are other extremely desperate franchises. When a starting caliber quarterback becomes available, it exposes the underlying anxieties of every single team that isn't completely secure at the position. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New York Jets. Each of these organizations has a completely different timeline, but they all share one fatal flaw. They are one bad break away from total quarterback disaster, and they all know Mayfield could instantly patch their sinking ships. Dissecting the Pittsburgh Steelers' looming crisis is fascinating. Aaron Rodgers is currently their guy, but there is an intense league-wide expectation that Rodgers will depart following this 2026 season. And behind him, a terrifying void. The Steelers have zero reliable depth behind Rodgers right now. If they want to avoid taking a massive step backward when Rodgers inevitably exits, they need a successor ready to go. Mayfield represents a plug-and-play veteran who fits the gritty identity of Pittsburgh football absolutely flawlessly. I mean, he brings that exact toughness and bravado that the Steel City demands, doesn't he? It's a perfect match on paper. Then, you have the Minnesota contingency plan. The Vikings are sitting in a highly precarious situation themselves. They are currently evaluating Kyler Murray, who is operating on a high-stakes one-year deal. If that experiment ends poorly, they have a massive problem on their hands. Why? Because they are nervously watching J.J. McCarthy's incredibly slow development in the background. If Murray leaves and McCarthy just isn't ready to take the reins, the Vikings will instantly seek a proven competitive option to keep their elite offensive weapons happy. Mayfield fits that bill for them perfectly. And finally, the New York Jets are lurking. Look, never, ever count out a front office operating under intense pressure to win immediately, especially not the New York Jets, a team that basically majored in quarterback anxiety for the last several decades. The Jets have built an incredible roster of weapons, but if their current quarterback room underperforms even slightly this year, they will not hesitate to pull the ripcord. They are absolutely a team ready to pounce on a high-level veteran like Mayfield to salvage their championship window before it slams shut.
Section 5. The Final Countdown.
We have entered the final act of this drama. Time is officially running out. The deadlines have passed, the lines have been drawn in the sand, and now there is nowhere left for anyone to hide. The business side of football is giving way to the sheer violence and unpredictability of the regular season. The coming months will be a brutal, week-by-week audition. Every single snap Baker Mayfield takes dictates his market value. If he falters, if the offense stalls, his price drops. But if he maintains steady, high-level play, his price tag is going to skyrocket entirely out of reach, leaving desperate franchises like Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Minnesota completely in the dust, forced back to the drawing board to figure out their futures.
So as we watch the Buccaneers take the field, and as we watch Daniel Jones try to survive the intense pressure cooking in Indianapolis, I want you to remember this. This isn't over yet. The silence you hear right now isn't peace. It's just the deep breath before the chaos truly begins.
Welcome to NFL Nexus. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the biggest, most impactful stories across the league, you are absolutely in the right place. Subscribe to the channel right now, like this explainer to support the content, and drop a comment down below. I want to hear exactly where you think Baker Mayfield will be playing in 2027. And more importantly, which general manager do you think is going to panic first? I read every single comment, and hey, if you really want to elevate your football knowledge, support the channel directly by becoming a channel member today. We have so much more to uncover this season, so stay locked in to NFL Nexus. I'll see you next time.